At this time, we will move on to review and adoption of the agenda. Has everyone had a chance to look at the agenda? If so, we'll call for a motion to adopt. I need a motion to adopt the agenda after you. Motion by Senator Gozad. Second by Senator Caltrans. Question by Senator Nonafraid of the Lodge Grass District. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All those opposed, all those abstaining, with a vote of 13 yes, 0 no, 0 abstain. Agenda is now approved by the body. Next we move on to new business. A bill for an act to amend the Title 23 of the Crow Law and Order Code by revising the Crow Tribal Gaming Ordinance. This is in the Gaming Committee. Yeah. Executive Legal, is there anyone from Executive Legal? Jackie, did you let them know that we were? Since we're waiting, the LRs, the confirmation LRs, how many do we have? Is it just Health and Human?
Just Health and Human. I asked her to be here by 3. I can have her come over now. Kosher.
We also need legal executive for the other GA, for the other,
Do I have to
on the
press
agenda.
save, or what do we do? Sorry.
Well, if we're waiting for legal, executive legal. Mr. Speaker. Yes, go ahead.
Senator, I take this opportunity to give a report on my trip last week.
Okay. For organize the Secretary of the Household Crow.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last week I had the opportunity to travel to Washington DC with the chairman. The trip was, the issue of the trip was to speak and lobby on behalf of the Indian Coal Production Tax Credit. That was the issue of the trip. We left on Tuesday, and on our arrival Tuesday evening, we met with Aiken and Gump Law Office, and there we the chairman got briefed on the current status and other issues that might be at hand that we needed to address, which there wasn't too much to do, but they just kind of give a brief overview on what was happening, which we were all pretty much aware of the status of the irrigation project that's ongoing right now. Another issue was the afterbay. The monies for the afterbay, why weren't we awarded, or why wasn't it appropriated to the tribe for the project to be developed? And they were looking into it, but we were going to discuss that with, Assistant Secretary Washburn later that Thursday, for a scheduled meeting there, and that's where we discussed it there. But getting on with the agenda, on Wednesday, we met with, six senators and congressmen. The first one we met with Tony Walters, who is an assistant to Senator Maria Cantwell. She's the Senate Indian Affairs Chair. And the chairman lobbied with Mr. Walters and discussed our issues on why we needed to get the Indian coal production tax credit on the agenda of one of the bills, and why we needed it passed. Because it's going to expire, as you know, at the end of this month, end of this year, due to an extension from last year. We met with Cisco Minthorn, who is an assistant to Ron Whedon, Senator Ron Whedon of Oregon, and Ron Whedon is the chairman for the Senate of Energy Natural Resource Development Committee. And these two are chairs of their committees, and they were very key people in regards to the issue that we need to get passed. And then we met with John Kester, made him aware of why we were there, what we were doing, which he already was, but anyway, it was just kind of a more of a protocol to meet with our representative. Then we met with Richard Litzy and Ryan Abraham, and as you know, they're aides to Mr. Senator Max Baucus, who is the chairman of the Senate Finance Committee. And with this coal production tax credit being a part of the finance doing, because of the rebates and tax credits, that's why we kind of stressed with him and wanted to make sure that he keep in contact with him and make sure he keeps pushing on it. So, and then after that we met with, we went to the house, on the house side, and met with Chris Fleur, who's his boss is Representative Don Young, and on the House side, he's the chair of the Indian and Alaska Native Affairs Subcommittee. And it was the same situation. We kind of reiterated our stance on the Indian coal production tax credit and trying to get it through that way also, to make sure that when it does come aboard somewhere along the line later this year, that they would be aware and putting it on the radar. And at the end of the day, about 5:15, we finally met with Senator Dane, or Representative Daines from here in Montana. He is on the Indian Affairs, Alaska Native Indian Affairs Committee also. So we met with him, and as protocol, he's the representative for the state of Montana, as you know. And we met with him and talked with him and let him be aware of our issue. And he was kind of skeptical at first, but after we gave our viewpoints and let him know that the need and the urgency for it, that we were able to sway him and convince him that, you know, it is important for us. And Thursday, the next morning, we met with Teresa Pettigrew, who is an aide for John Cornyn. He's on the Senate Finance Committee. He's a senator from Texas. And that one went kind of a little bit shaky on that one, but I'm pretty sure they'll follow us along because, as you know, Republicans are pro resource development. But it was kind of hit and miss with that one, but we finally convinced them otherwise. And I believe these one-on-one talks with the tribal representatives really helped, because if it was just our lobbyists, I don't think it would have got the point across, because our lobbyists were with us, which are lobbyists for Westmoreland and for Cloud Peak. They were there also with us throughout the time we were there. And the last one we met was with Laura Pence, who is an aide for Senator Michael Bennett, who's from Colorado. He's on the Senate Finance Committee also. See, if you see the pattern, we were meeting with the people on the committees, just like here, on the key points, on the finance committees and on the resource committees also, the natural gas, natural energy and natural resources. Those committees, people that were on those committees, that way they're aware of our situation. And like what we said was, it might seem just like a minor issue and that they might just set aside and, thinking they don't need to pass it, but how it is, how detrimentally important it is for us, because without it, it would increase how much harder it would be for us to develop our resources. And it doesn't level the playing field. One of the issues that we talked about was, the lobbyists talked about was, especially the Westmoreland and Cloud Peak, was how hard it is to develop trust coal than it is on the outside. Right? And Senator Hugs here probably knows, like with his oil and gas, how much they have to, what the hoops they have to jump through just to get an oil well drilled. So with the coal side. And finally, we met with Kevin Washburn, who's Assistant Secretary of Interior, Indian Affairs. And that meeting, as I spoke earlier, was a gaming meeting. The issue with the gaming compact came up, and he was really, he sounded excited about it, and that he was really anxious for things to get, more things to come to his desk. And the first thing that he said when we walked in was, boy, the Crow tribe is sure moving and shaking, aren't they now? And that sounded good. And I think that's all due to part of us cooperating with the executive and trying to get things done. And I realize we can't just lay down and say yes to everything. We have to make sure everything's done right before we do say yes. And if not, we can always decline it. The issue on while we were there, Ms. Atkinson, who is the head of the department for overseeing the Afterbay project on the, the hydropower dam. We asked why the funds were delayed and that, and she said we were second and we were class 2, and we asked that question, well, not myself, but the attorneys asked the question, what makes us number 2 then? And because of all the other applicants, how many other applicants were there? And she didn't give us a straight answer, but we will be pursuing it more, so that way we can get the funding for it and get it going. But we will pressure also the senators, also Congressman Daines. And I'm sure the executive will be doing that.
Class 2 badge, what do you mean?
Class 2 meaning like we're rated 2 instead of like rated 1 for priority.
What's the other?
That's what we asked. We asked what's 1 then, and what's 2, what makes us 2? Well, she wouldn't give us an answer. Just kind of give us a political answer. Cool. It's kind of frustrating there, but like I said, we're going to be talking with, or not me, but the executive. They made it a point that they would talk with the congressmen and senators to make sure they could kind of start pressuring Interior on that. I don't know how much authority they would have on pressuring someone on the executive side to hand some money over, just like us trying to have one of the executive departments do something, kind of that situation. But anyway, it was a very enlightening experience in regards to lobbying on behalf of the Crow tribe, watching the scenes happen in that, and I think that was a enlightening experience for me. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Secretary of the House. So Jackie, have we heard back from executive? from the candidate.
She's supposed to be here right at 3.
All right, we'll take a 5-minute break while we wait for someone to show up. Everybody stay in your seats, we'll just sit here for 5 minutes.
Can I give her a report also
Yeah, all right.
on something? I don't, what do you wanna know?
What do you want to hear about, huh? We'll take a 5-minute break while we wait for executive. Break. Executive legal. We're on a bill for an act titled an act to amend the Title 23 of the Crow Law and Order Code by revising the Crow Tribal Gaming Ordinance. So at this time, Chairman of the Gaming Committee, Senator Reelbird. Which executive legal? All right. I guess we will be calling on executive legal, special counsel, Dale Lavador for this. So it's a bill, the gaming bill. Floor recognizes executive legal counsel.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. Secretary, members of the body, Republic. An act to amend Title 23 of the Crow Law and Order Code by revising the Crow Tribal Gaming Ordinance.
Motion to adopt by Senator Not Afraid of the Bighorn District. Do we have a second? Second by Senator Hugs. Go ahead and proceed.
Legislative findings. Whereas Article 5, Section 2A of the Crow Tribal Constitution vests the Crow Tribal Legislature, hereinafter legislature, with the power and duty to promulgate and adopt laws and resolutions in accordance with the Crow Tribal Constitution and federal law for the governance of the Crow Tribe. And whereas Article 4, Section 4A of the Crow Tribal Constitution provides that the general duties of the executive branch officials shall include the duty to implement all laws, resolutions, and policies duly adopted by the legislature. Whereas Title 23 of the Crow Law and Order Code, titled Crow Gaming Ordinance, sets forth the standards for the regulation of the conduct of gaming on lands subject to the jurisdiction of the Crow tribe. Whereas the Crow tribe is vested with the inherent authority and responsibility to regulate the conduct of gaming on its lands. And whereas the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act, 25 U.S.C. sections 2701 and sequent, requires Indian tribes to adopt an ordinance governing the conduct of gaming on Indian lands in order to engage in or license and regulate such gaming. And whereas the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act sets forth certain standards with which tribal gaming ordinances must comply, and the National Indian Gaming Commission has adopted regulations to ensure that tribal gaming ordinances meet those standards. Whereas the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act requires all gaming ordinances to be approved by the chairperson of the National Indian Gaming Commission. And whereas the Crow tribe has a strong interest in protecting the integrity of gaming activities conducted on its lands and ensuring that such activities comply with all applicable laws. And whereas it is essential to the economic security and the health, safety, and general welfare of the Crow tribe and the visitors to the Crow Indian Reservation that revisions to the standards and regulations be made to govern the conduct of gaming activities on the Crow Indian Reservation in order to properly reflect the new constitutional form of Crow tribal government and to enhance accountability to the Crow tribe and due process for regulated entities. Whereas the Crow tribe must submit the amended ordinance to the chairperson of the National Indian Gaming Commission for approval to ensure that all gaming activities on lands of the Crow tribe are subject to stringent regulation. Now therefore, being enacted as Crow tribal law by the Crow tribal legislature in special session. Section 1. The Crow tribal gaming ordinance codified at Title 23 of the 2005 Crow Law and Order Code is hereby amended to reflect the changes made as a result of enactment of the Crow tribal gaming ordinance of 2013 as contained in this act. Section 2. The Crow tribal gaming ordinance of 2013 shall be included as an attachment to this act. Section 3. The Crow tribal gaming ordinance of 2013 shall have full force and effect upon passage as law and approval by the chairperson of the National Indian Gaming Commission and publication in the Federal Register.
All right, thank you. This brings us to the 30-minute presentation. So you go ahead and speak on it.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think this will be fairly short. We've worked with the chairperson of the Gaming Committee, Gilbert, various members of the legislature, and a number of committee meetings. And the long and short of it is that with these amendments that were discussed, debated, edited, reviewed, and then brought back again, the committee ultimately approved recommendation of these. There have been two minor amendments which I think we'll address after the general discussion. And just to walk you through what the committee had worked on, and I will describe it as briefly and then yield my time. After many years of hard work and in a session, I believe, was that in early March, I believe, through this body had adopted the underlying basis of the gaming ordinance of 2013. After a long time, we got re-engaged from the executive side and passed it. In going back over and re-reviewing what was passed, we realized that there were a few sections that were not included, including some on background checks, which we went back through the amendment process, and then there were a number of definitional issues. Instead of saying the reservation, we changed it to eligible Crow Indian lands, and for a variety of other reasons parallel to the compact itself. And so all of these, the committee agreed were good updates, ones that we thought were necessary before we submitted to the NIGC, so that the NIGC would grant its approval that this was an approved set of amendments that included all the provisions that they had in their standard regulations. So we just went and double checked, realized there were a few omissions, a few cross references we needed to have, and through the committee process, finalized all of those, and then moved it forward for this session today. So I think without going into too much more, and finally to say, these amendments that were worked through the committee are important, and if we had submitted the ordinance without these amendments, NIGC probably would have told us conditional approval pending you including all the things that we're gonna include anyway. So we thought, why not get it right the first time before we submit to NIGC, get all the things we need in there, get it approved through this body, submit it, and get it approved once and for all. So with that, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Secretary, I yield the remainder of my time.
Thank you. We are still in 30-minute presentation. Going once. 30-minute presentation. Going twice. Last and final call. With that, we move on to the next item then. You can take a seat there, Mr. Lavador. At this time, the Speaker of the House will ask the Chairman of the Gaming Committee for his recommendation. So at this time, Senator Reelberg of the Wildwood District, do you recommend approval or disapproval?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Secretary, members of the body, executive, lawyers. We had a meeting this, all morning about this, and we had a good discussion on it. Just wanted to bring out some key points to the members that were not aware of what was going on, and we had a vote of 16 yes for approval on these amendments. So the Gaming Committee has approved a final vote of 16-0 to go ahead for approval for this bill and amendments.
Thank you. So we have approval from the Chairman of the Gaming Committee. Which takes us to the next item. The floor is now open to debate on the proposed legislation. Debate. We're now in debate. Going once, we're in debate. The floor recognizes Senator Goes Ahead of the Pryor District.
Yeah, I know that we've had some discussions here. I know that the ordinance itself has been passed. We have something that we can work on. I know it's a living, breathing document, but there are some areas such as the authority, the structure of it is not. We're not there yet, and we need a lot of that. The structure, the ACE Corporation, or the ACE Corporation, the commissioners, and I know right now there's some, I believe there's some confusion that we've been made aware of there at the casino. I know that I wanted it to be successful, but we need that structure to be in place, and we want to get this going. I know that. I'm all in it myself personally. I want to see this, but the ordinance itself, we need that structure. And so are we gonna, when is the next time we're gonna work on this, amendments? Because I know it's a living, breathing document. We've got to keep that going. I know that right now the main focus is to get this gaming compact into the state and Montana, and being up to speed on that this morning. It's good to hear, Dale, what you guys are doing. I'm all for it, like I said. But the gaming compact, the gaming ordinance itself, we still need to fine tune it in the structure. So what I want to see is I want to get this chairman to start working. He's been on the road too long, so I want to see him work, man. Sweat a little bit, Just saying all that. But yeah, those are my concerns, really. We see the problems, but we haven't resolved them yet. And we haven't resolved them, but we wanna get that, we wanna get there. That's really a concern of mine at this time, myself, because they're making us aware of it. You know, no authority at the structure, who's the boss and who's not, you know, but we know that the boss is the chairman of the executive branch right now, we know. But we wanted to be successful about, you know, getting those codes where there's an arm's length. We're not there yet, but I believe we're gonna get there, and that's the objective that we have. So I just wanna, have like a timeline that we need to get there. So I know there's a lot of, we have a lot on our plate right now without, not putting all your eggs in one basket, but we're initiating a lot of these issues and initiating it to get it going. But my question, Dale, is, we're gonna continue this, right? The structure? Okay, go ahead, Mr. Speaker.
All right, did you want to respond, or is that, yes, is good enough? Senator Goza, is that sign language, yes, good enough for you then?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we're still in debate. Going once, we're still in debate. Going twice. Third and final call, we're in debate. If there is no more debate, we will move on for recommendations or motions for amendments. I believe you had some amendments. So the floor recognizes Executive Legal Special Counsel Dale Lavender.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the body. This was handed out earlier as well, the blue line that has the red stamp copy on it. I believe it's page 24 of the gaming ordinance. And the two amendments are listed and they're highlighted in yellow. And it simply was a technical correction because before it listed section 14. Instead, it should have listed section 13. Section 13 being the process to hire key management and key personnel. And there's 3 pages long of that process. And all this section is saying is that, for example, on the first one, the Gaming Commission's eligibility determination described in section 13, the decision to hire, the process, that they check their background, etc. That it be referenced to the right section. The section 14 is suspension of a license if there are problems after they've already been licensed. So too with the second section 13, it talks about a background investigation. There's a subsection in the decision to hire that does background investigations. So it's simply referencing the right section. And those are the only 2 minor amendments that were brought up after the submission of this legislation.
All right, before we're gonna Senator
I'm
Reelberg.
gonna make that motion to add this, change this section. I think it's just section 13, right? Yeah, yes.
Okay. We've got a motion on the floor. Second by Senator Alden, Bighorn District. Question by Senator Crooked Arm. All right, so at this time, all those in favor of the motion to amend, raise your right hand. All those opposed? All those abstaining? Motion carries with a vote of 13 yes, 0 no, 0 abstain. That brings us to second reading. Floor organized Senator Not Afraid of the Lodge Grass District.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the body. At this time, I'd like to motion that we waive second reading with the approved amendments and move to final roll call vote.
We have a motion on the floor with waiving the second reading with amendments. Do we have a second? Second by Senator Kyle Grun's question by Senator Railbird. All those in favor of waiving second reading with amendments, raise your right hand. All those opposed? All those abstaining? Motion carries with a vote of 13 yes, 0 no, 0 abstain. This brings us to final roll call vote, starting with the Black Lodge District.
Pretty Face, Black Lodge, yes.
Kyle Reno, yes.
Not Afraid, Ashpajich, yes.
Alden Bighorn, yes.
Not Afraid, Bighorn, yes.
Pete Green, Owl Creek, yes.
Hug Zero Creek,
Yes.
Railbird, mighty few, yes.
Stewart, mighty few, yes.
Old Crow, yes.
Shane Reno, yes. And for the record, Senator Crookerarm voted yes.
I voted yes, and it's off.
And also for Senator Goes Ahead, voted yes, and his mic was also off. So those two senators voted yes, Senator Crooked Arm and Senator Goes Ahead, for the record. That's the report, Secretary of the House,
13-0-0.
Secretary of the House reports 13 yes, 0 no, 0 abstain. Bill passes with a vote of 13 yes. Floor recognizes Special Counsel to Executive Legal, Mr. Dale Lavender.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Secretary, members of the body, Legal J. Again, we're here, second round of celebration, but I want to thank all of you for working through these amendments to get to a place where I think we all want to be, which is an updated gaming ordinance to regulate the future of gaming on the Crow Reservation, and to have the tribe in the strongest position through a commission to do that. In recognition that Senator Goes Ahead's statement of concerns, absolutely, we've set part of the foundation, which is this gaming ordinance that we can now submit to NIGC, and I'll be happy to transmit when we formally transmit that to this body to make sure they're updated in the gaming committee. And then secondly, we'll have updates on the gaming compact itself. And with those two major pieces, the other elements that were discussed in executive session and brought to my attention a couple hours ago, it'll be time to discuss the structure of what company is going to develop, who our partners are going to be, how the revenue would be distributed, and is Class 2 going to be allowed to everyone. And so all of those are relevant, and we have time to do that. But first things first, an updated gaming ordinance that is governed by the Crow tribe through both bodies. And then secondly, the compact, and I think through your patience and hard work, we're headed towards development. And it always takes longer than you think it does. There are hiccups along the way, but nevertheless, with both branches working together, I think we'll work through them. We'll have more development, and you'll be there every step of the way from the chairman's perspective. So I want to thank all of you again for providing these amendments and passing them, and we're going to be submitting these to NIGC as soon as we can. Thank all of you. I hope.
Thank you. That brings us to the next item on the agenda, approval of amendments to the fiscal year 2013 Crow Travel budget to authorize expenditure of option payment from the Big Middle option to lease agreement. At this time,
Speaker, got a
Yes.
privilege, just before we get over with that, Dow, I know you had a conference call at 1:30, right? And you're gonna see if you had any updates on any of those, is there any updates from that conference call? Just before.
organizes special counsel, Mr. Lavender.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll be brief. We had the call at 1:30 with Governor Bullock, his Chief Legal Counsel, Andy Huff, Jason Smith, who's the Indian Affairs Director, and then another person on the call. We had Don Ponggrace on the line to explain intertribal leasing from Arizona, New York, and California, where they have experience in leasing machines. And the call itself, and Executive Counsel Melissa Holdzienemy was in the call. The chairman was there, Vice Secretary Backbone, and Corky Oldhorn. And the idea was to update the governor and see if he was more comfortable with intertribal leasing. I had mentioned it hasn't happened in Montana yet, and as many of you know, anything that's new makes it more difficult for someone to agree to initially, but that doesn't mean we won't push and push as much as we can. The governor did say on the phone that he wasn't going to give a final answer on the phone itself, that he was going to leave that to the negotiators, but he did ask a series of questions about experiences in other states, how it works. His team asked probably about 15 minutes of questions on how would this work, how long would it take, when would this become operative if he were to allow it. And I mentioned earlier, my guess is that what we're going to do, much like the alcohol question, which I told the governor's lawyer that we would talk offline, but we wanted to talk about it. And we did discuss, I told him we'll get a reaction from what the governor had to say, have a placeholder, and then go from there. The chairman decided after the call was over that he really would like to move forward on the main provisions of the compact this Friday, and that he wants to leave these others as placeholders. I would also bring everyone's attention to the fact that there's a provision in the compact itself now, the proposed compact, that says even after we finalize this compact, a set of amendments, that we would sit down within a year and then try to get a fuller gaming compact with these other provisions. And that's in there so that if we did want to execute, get something done and move forward quicker, we could do it, and then we'd be sitting back down at the table on these other provisions. So that's the latest thinking. The chairman really would like to make use of the governor being here on Friday morning. They did mention they have 3 horses waiting for his family and 2 kids, and he was worried about the state of the horses, on whether they were going to be good horses or whether he's going to have to work for his money when he's here. And the chairman assured him that he would have good Apsaloke horses, unlike other tribes' horses, is what I think he said, but that's not on the record, that's off the record. So the long and short of it is all those main operative provisions, I'll be having a follow-up call, and then I'll follow up with the gaming committee chairman and your attorney, Jay Harris, here on what transpires going forward in the coming days. So, thank you.
Thank you. So at this time, we are at the next item on the agenda, approval of amendments to the fiscal year 2013 Crow Tribal budget to authorize expenditure of option payment from the Big Middle option to lease agreement. At this time, the Chairman of the Revenue Committee, Mr. Senator goes ahead. Who will be representing, or who will be presenting this?
Well, the executive branch will be reading this into record. So who's gonna be? This is gonna be Bill.
All right.
Bill Watt.
Floor recognizes Executive Legal Counsel Bill Watt.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Secretary, members of the body, staff, guests, executive department members, and judicial branch. The resolution is entitled, quote, approval of amendments to the fiscal year 2013 Crow Tribal budget to authorize expenditure of option payment from the Big Metal option to lease agreement.
Motion to adopt by Senator Goes Ahead, second by Senator Alden. Go ahead and proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The resolution reads as follows, and I will read the original one submitted for the session. Whereas Article 4, Section 3D of the Crow Tribal Constitution and Bylaws requires the executive branch of the Crow Tribal Government to prepare an annual budget for the operation of the tribal government, including separate budgets for the legislative and judicial branches, for approval by the legislative branch and the Secretary of the Interior. And whereas Article 5, Section 2E of the Constitution empowers the legislative branch to grant final approval or disapproval of the annual budget prepared by the executive branch. And whereas CLB 12-05, the revised annual budget for the operation of the Crow Tribal Government and the expenditure of tribal revenue for fiscal year 2013, the quote FY 2013 budget, unquote, was approved by the legislature on December 20th, 2012, and by the chairman of the executive branch on December 21st, 2012, and said FY 2013 budget did not authorize expenditure of any proceeds from any new coal development agreements. And whereas JAR 13-01, granting final approval of the exploration agreement, option to lease agreement, and coal leases between the Crow Tribe of Indians and Big Metal Coal Company, LLC, the quote, Big Metal agreements, unquote, was approved by the legislature on January 15th, 2013, and by the chairman on January 17th, 2013. And whereas upon execution of the Big Metal agreements on January 24th, 2013, the tribe received an initial option payment in the amount of $2.25 million. An expenditure of such payment was authorized and budgeted by CLB 13-02, quote, approval of amendments to the fiscal year 2013 Crow Tribal budget to authorize expenditure of proceeds from the Big Metal coal development agreements, unquote. And whereas upon approval by the Big Metal agreements by the Secretary of the Interior or her designee, the tribe will receive an additional option payment in the amount of $1.5 million. Whereas the Rocky Mountain Regional Director, Bureau of Indian Affairs, has notified the tribe that it intends to approve the Big Metal agreements on or about June 14th, 2013, subject to certain non-substantive corrections of erroneous cross-references in the Big Metal agreements, a list of which is attached hereto and incorporated by reference. The quote clarifications. Now therefore, be it resolved by the Crow Tribal Legislature and the Crow Tribal Executive Branch. Section 1. The amended 2013 fiscal year budget for the expenditure of Crow Tribe revenue as approved by CLB 12-05 is hereby approved as follows. A. The Crow Tribal revenue budget is increased by the amount of $1,500,000 to reflect receipt of the additional option payment. B. Expenditure of the $1.5 million additional option payment is authorized as follows, to be determined. Section 2. The attached clarifications to the Big Metal agreements are hereby ratified and approved. And Section 3. This resolution is effective immediately upon approval by the legislative branch and the chairman of the executive branch.
Thank you. That brings us to 30-minute presentation.
I'll start out briefly here, and Mr. Speaker, we expect to receive a BIA's approval of the Big Metal agreements any day now. This resolution obviously budgets those additional payments. I wanted to speak to the second item that it does. It does also ratify and approve some technical corrections to the Big Metal agreements. There were erroneous cross-references to different sections in the agreements that didn't get all completely cleaned up as we made some last-minute additions and changes. You originally had just a list of those changes with the references. We have provided to your staff and officers a replacement for that attachment, that is the clarifications, which consists of a letter dated June 10th, 2013, signed by Chairman Okayo and also concurred with by Cloud Peak CEO Colin Marshall, which has been received by the BIA last week. So that's section 2 of the agreement, or section 2 of the resolution, and we also have copies of those, the replacement attachment, that is the clarification letter for the Bureau of Indian Affairs. Secondly, and probably first, this thing also budgets the additional $1.5 million option payment. We have provided some substitute replacement language today to your attorney, Jay Harris, and it adopts the approach from the June 7th Revenue Committee meeting that makes it revenue neutral. That is that the $1.5 million is added to the coal bonus and option revenue line, and $1.5 million is subtracted or reduced from the Indian coal production tax credit revenue line, which Carl was able to confirm today. Carl, with that explanation of just the structure that we're suggesting, I'll turn it over to CPA and Comptroller Carl McCaffrey to discuss any other changes or reallocation issues that came up in last week's meeting.
Floor organizes CPA Carl McCaffrey. We are still in 30-minute presentation.
Thank you, Senator. I really don't have anything extra, but I wanted to be here to answer any questions that you guys might have at this point.
I believe right now it's proponents of this legislation. Questions can be answered during the debate portion. So we'll move on. If you have any questions, hold your questions until we come to debate. At this time, it's just proponents. So all you need to say, Carla, is that you asked for us to pass this. It's something good, how good it is, or whatever. It's just proponents that are speaking on behalf of this legislation.
I see. I apologize. Yes, let me gather my thoughts for a moment. The 1.5 million is that we're going to receive as additional revenue, as Bill had said, is actually going to cover the shortfall in the Westmoreland tax credit. We did not receive the Indian coal production tax credit in the amount that was originally budgeted for. We were about $1.5 million short, so we wanted to utilize this 1.5 million that we're getting in this lease bonus option to cover the expenditures that are already authorized in the budget where that's going to fall short. So it's kind of a revenue neutral. We don't really gain or lose anything at this point. It's just covering the Indian coal production tax credit that was less, and it was less because of that Sherco plant closure, and that's scheduled to come back online here in August, I believe. Thank you.
All right, we are still in 30-minute presentation. Any more proponents? Going once. 30-minute presentation going twice. Last and final call. Any more proponents? All right, we'll move on. At this time, Speaker of the House will ask the Chairman of the Revenue Committee for approval or disapproval. At this time, floor organizer Senator goes ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I'll reiterate the recommendations. We've had 4 Revenue Committee meetings. On June 4th, it was a Tuesday, June 6th, Thursday, June 7th, Friday, and last Thursday, June 13th. And I believe we came to a conclusion at that time on June 13th to pass this 1.5 million option lease bonus. The approval was 8-0-0. Motion was Senator Leroy Not Afraid, seconded by Senator Alden. The question by Senator Coyote Runs, and it was approved. approved for full legislature's approval at today's special session.
Thank you. That brings us to debate. At this time, the floor is now open to debate. Floor organizes Senator Alden of the Bighorn District.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the body, secretary, executive guests. My question is based on revenues, committee's recommendation here. We had a motion within this committee, and I mean, we discussed the whole meeting. We discussed about breaking down this 1.5, and we made a motion. But now it's a whole different use of this. So does that mean everything that happened in the committee just kind of when I could read this motion right here that we made in committee, that was to recommend passage of the proposed joint action resolution amending the 2013 fiscal year budget with such precise increases and corresponding decreases in expenditure authorizations as determined by the executive branch chairman and tribal comptroller, and which shall generally increase the budget authorizations for judicial branch for the purpose of the Crow Court of Appeals and the Healing to Wellness program, and to generally increase budget authorizations for various tribal programs, including summer, youth, and recreational facilities at the Crow Park, as discussed in committee. So, I mean, we made that committee recommendation, but I'm hearing something different now, so that's where my question comes in.
Who is the question directed?
It's actually to both, to either the revenue committee. Are we gonna go in a different direction from our committee recommendation, or is that to actually finance?
All right. So I'll leave that up.
Actually.
I'll leave that up to the chairman of revenue committee. Either he could answer, or he can designate someone else to answer the question. So, floor organizer Senator goes ahead.
I can answer that, Mr. Speaker. At that last revenue committee on Thursday, the 13th, I believe it was Senator Not Afraid. I believe we had a vote on it, that he wanted to have the permissible language to the executive branch, and we're gonna get to the amendments on those, but the breakdown, you're correct, the breakdown is $5,400 to the appellate courts, $20,000 to the Healing to Wellness program. That was from the judicial court, and then also $30,000 to the park improvement, and then also the $100,000 summer youth additional to hire 50 more summer youth. And so the total was $155,400, and so that's how we're going to be appropriating it. But we couldn't get to the line item. What line item, the current budget, where we're going to take this from? But I believe we made them amendments, and that's why the motion was made by Senator Not Afraid of Lodgegrass to make it permissible. And I believe the amendments are going to come to the floor like today. But you're correct. Of the breakdown of the $155,400, how it's going to be appropriated. Yes, sir.
So are we, I mean, just clarification, are we on the same page? Are we still the same route we talked about in the meetings, and we asked for the breakdown on those? Or is it, from what I was hearing earlier, that there was money already there for summer youth, and I mean, it's just need an explanation maybe.
Floor organizes Executive CPA Carl Catherine.
The amendments that we did talk about, I did speak with Chairman Wolfkight this morning a little bit about the $100,000 for summer youth is already in the budget, and that 150 as the education budget, so that doesn't need to be budgeted again at this time. And I apologize that I didn't get this information to you sooner. It's just wasn't able to meet with him until this morning. And then I did talk to him about finding the other 55,000 in existing federal programs instead of budgeting it from the general fund. The Healing to Wellness and the parks could fall under a variety of programs. There's some suicide prevention stuff that maybe we could do some of the park stuff with. And I guess my recommendation at this point is to find federal monies to do those. But at this point, the biggest portion of that, the summer youth, is still available, so we can still do that because it is already in the budget.
Floor organized, Senator goes ahead.
Mr. Speaker, at this time, I'd like to yield my time to our legal J to explain a little more further.
All right, the floor recognizes legislative legal. Mr. J. Harris.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Secretary, members of the body. It is an honor to appear for you. Executive Legal, Tribal Comptroller, members of the General Council. The Revenue Committee met last week, as the Revenue Chair described, on the 13th to discuss the proposed amendments to the current fiscal year budget. $1.5 million is going to be received by the Bureau of Indian Affairs from Lake Meadow. This is the second half of the initial option payment. So before the committee was the question of how to spend $1.5 million. And as the discussion went in the Revenue Committee, there was various areas of unmet needs or increases of expenditure that were needed. We had probably the largest proposed amendment at $100,000. That was the summer youth. There is existing line item language in the current budget, so no amendment would be required. Everything else, the executive branch feels that there is other funds available from federal grant sources to pay for. The Healing to Wellness program with Judicial, identified by the Chief Judge as a pressing need, and the basketball court for the Crow Park, which is currently undergoing renovation. There's still the question of the $5,400 amendment to the judicial branch budget for the purpose of increasing the line item authorization for the appellate court to $12,500, which reflects 1/4 of the amount that was advised to be adequate to fund the appellate court. That $12,500 could still be met through a modification under the Fiscal Management Act. That would be at the discretion of the Chief Judge upon request by the Executive Branch CPA. So that's still a possibility, even if it weren't by virtue of the amendment today. So we don't have in the proposed budget amendment any net increase to the total tribal revenues anticipated to be received this fiscal year. The $1.5 million is reflected in the proposed substitute version of the budget amendment, which hasn't yet hit the floor, but will soon during the amendment portion. The $1.5 million amount to be received from the initial option payment is going to be basically in lieu of some of the shortcoming that we're not going to receive from the Westmoreland Tax Credit Sharing Agreement. So accordingly, the Westmoreland Tax Credit budget revenue source is going to be reduced by 1.5. So our total revenue doesn't increase. We're just getting more certain with our revenue by the Cloud Peak money. All of the 1.5 million will be administered by the executive branch and expended through existing line items. So none of the line items change to the budget amendment today. And because of the shortfall of revenues that I think the tribal comptroller explained briefly, attributed to lower coal sales by Westmoreland, we're gonna just be going forward with the budget as is in terms of expenditure. I think that's the long version, and it's very hot here, so I'm probably gonna cut it short after that.
Floor organized, Senator not afraid of Lost Grass District.
I do have a question for Legal J. Mr. Speaker, with your permission.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Secretary, and members of the body. Legal J, my question is at the request of the good senator from Bighorn, he wanted clarification. I believe the intent of the committee was upheld by the permissive language that was approved by the committee. The language was written in the sense to grant authorization to the committee chair to basically agree with what is being presented today. That it wasn't restrictive language, it was permissive. Would you agree?
Just one answer.
It is permissive to the extent, I would agree with the characterization by Senator Nautafrey, to the extent that the expenditure increases result. Now, if it doesn't come from this 1.5, but from other sources, I guess probably credit to executive for finding that money somewhere. I think that the goal of the committee was in response to the chairman's identification of these areas that he wanted to see increase expenditure amounts, that the committee, that permissive language in that motion would allow the revenue committee to come to some sort of understanding, revenue committee chair, some sort of understanding as to exact amounts, and if the exact amount is zero, because other sources of funds will be utilized, I think it's probably permissive to that extent, but in the end, this is only going to be a recommendation from the committee, and in light of new facts presented to the legislature, the recommendation can be acted upon, or the legislature can take an action differently. But I think that in short, the answer is yes, that the motion allows for this type of flexibility, because at the time, the executive was still wanting to have a full understanding of the books and what kind of financial condition the tribe would be in to accommodate the budget amendment.
Thank you.
All right, the floor recognizes Secretary of the House, Oak Grove.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the body, honored guests. I guess my question would be to Carla. You mentioned that the funds that was talked about during the revenue meeting in regards to the healing and wellness and the appellate court, that the money that was discussed at that time from the budget, from the bonus money, that they thought they were going to take it out of the bonus money to cover these costs. But you're saying, forgive me if I'm wrong, but the way I heard it was that you were then going to take it out of some other federal programs to cover those costs. Am I right?
The floor recognizes Executive CPA, Crown Counsel.
Thank you. Yes, part of the reason that it's taking me so long, and I apologize for getting this new information now, is I was looking for other sources and stuff. We have many federal programs that can provide these services, and we want to watch and make sure we're not duplicating something and saving the operating and general fund as much as we can. And I do believe that those monies are available in federal programs.
Go ahead, Secretary of the House.
Okay, and are these other programs, are you sure they're not going to be hurting or lacking? They're not earmarked for something that they're already thinking about or planning on, are they? Have you talked to the directors of those programs and make sure, money's not going to come out from under them where they thought they were going to have it? And, just to ensure there's communication between all departments.
Correct. I haven't spoken directly with the directors, no, and some of the monies, it's funding opportunities that maybe we could go out and write for something for the park for the 30,000. But I don't have anything specific or set in stone as to where that money is going to come from. I just know that we have programs that this may fall under, and we need to take a better look at that and meet with those directors and with the accountant that does work with a lot of those, make sure that we do it the best way possible for the borough.
Okay, but, so like the appellate court and the healing to wellness program are going to be given some funds for their program, according to what you're saying.
Yes, I have an appointment actually tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock with the courts to look over their budget and talk to them about what we can do. So I am meeting with them.
Okay, thank you.
We are still in debate this time. Going once, we're still in debate. Going twice. Third and final call, we're in debate. If not, okay, so take us to the next item, which is, the floor is now open for recommendations or motions for amendments. Do we have any recommendations or motions at this time? If not, we'll go on.
We need to substitute this or add that as an amendment.
Okay, we're in amendments right now. What, for organized Senator goes ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Secretary, members of the body, and Executive Branch Legal, CPA. Yes, we have an amendment, proposed amendment to the, I guess you're gonna hand that out? You already hand that out? Okay. I guess, Bill, you wanna read the amendments?
Okay, for organized Senator, or Senator goes ahead. Is it going to be Mr. Watt that's going to read the amendments?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. For organizers, Executive Legal Counsel, Mr. Bill Watt.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Chairman, the amended section 1 would read as follows. Section 1, the amended 2013 fiscal year budget for the expenditure of the Crow Tribe revenue as approved by CLB 12-05 is hereby approved as follows. A, the Crow Tribal revenue budget for coal, oil, gas, bonus, and leases is increased by the amount of $1,500,000 to reflect receipt of the additional option payment. B, the Crow Tribal revenue budget for Westmoreland tax credit is decreased by the amount of $1,500,000 to reflect lower actual production and payments. And C, expenditure of the $1.5 million additional option payment is authorized for currently budgeted executive branch expenditures, period.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt those amendments.
Motion by Senator goes ahead. Do we have a
Second.
second? Second by Senator Not Afraid. Question? Question by Senator Hugs. All those in favor of the amendments, raise your right hand. All those opposed? All those abstaining? With a vote of 13 yes, 0 no, 0 abstain. Motion for amendments passes. That brings us to the second reading. Floor organized Senator goes ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. At this time, I'd like to waive second reading with amendments and go to final roll call vote.
We have a motion to waive second reading.
Second.
Second by Senator Not Afraid of the Los Grass District. Question by Senator Hugs. All those in favor of waiving second reading with amendments and moving on to final roll call vote, raise your right hand. All those opposed? All those abstaining? Motion carries with a vote of 13 yes, 0 no, 0 abstain. Final roll call vote. We'll start with the Black Lodge District.
Pretty Paper, yes.
Other minutes, Marino, yes.
Not Afraid, Ashbajicha, yes.
Alden Bighorn, yes.
Not Afraid, Bighorn, yes.
Bighorn, yes.
Deep Green, Arrow Creek, yes.
Gozad, Arrow Creek, yes.
Hug, Zero Creek, yes.
Reover, Mighty Few, yes.
Stewart, Mighty Few, yes.
Holden, Roscoe, JK, yes.
Shane Reno, yes. Secretary of the House, what do we have?
13-0-0.
13 yes, 0 no, 0 abstain, reported by the Secretary of the House. CLB passes with a vote of 13 yes, 0 no, 0 abstain. At this time, the floor recognizes Executive Legal Counsel Bill Watt.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and thank you very much to the body for approving this budget resolution. Again, it looks like doing these bonuses and option payments as we receive them is working well with the branches working together on those. And I'm sure the chairman, the executive officials, and the folks in finance appreciate the ability to cover some of the shortfall and the other revenue projections to cover the current budgeted items in the executive branch that we would otherwise run out of money to pay for because the revenue from the coal mine is less than expected. So again, thank you very much and appreciate all the hard work and cooperation and all the hard work of the Revenue Committee for sure. I hope.
All right, thank you. At this time, we're going to, I believe we're going to have to amend the agenda to organize this Secretary of the Household Pro.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With consultation with the legal advisor, in regards to the agenda, excuse me, in regards to the agenda, we motioned that the the Health and Human Subcommittee that after the hearing that it would, confirmation would go to the immediate next time appropriate, which is the next special session or session, and this is the special session immediately after that. But unfortunately, it occurred. The motion was made after the agenda was made, so that's why it's not on the agenda, but it's therefore being part of other business, unless it's up to the speaker if he wants to do a motion to amend the agenda or as part of the other business.
I believe to keep it simple, we'll just keep it in other business. Yeah, part of other business. So that takes us to other business at this time. And that will be the LR, confirmation. The floor recognizes Health and Human Services Chair, Senator Nonafraid of the Lodge Grass District.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the body. At this time, with your permission, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to start off with reading the title of the legislative resolution.
Go ahead, Senator.
A resolution of the Crow Tribal Legislature confirming Jacqueline Stewart as the cabinet head of the Health and Human Services.
Motion to adopt by Senator Nonafraid of the Bighorn District. Do we have a second? Second by Senator Hugs of the Pryor District. Go ahead and proceed.
Whereas the Crow Tribal Legislature is a separate and distinct branch of the government under the 2001 Constitution of the Crow Tribe. And whereas the Crow Tribal Legislature has the power and duty under Article 5, Section 2 of the 2001 Crow Constitution to promulgate and adopt resolutions and guidelines in accordance with the 2001 Constitution and federal laws for the governance of the Crow Tribe. And whereas the legislature has the lawful authority to confirm Crow Tribal Executive Branch cabinet heads which are nominated by the Crow Tribal Executive Branch Chairman in accordance with Crow Tribal Joint Action Resolution number 02-04. And whereas the position of cabinet head of the Crow Tribal Health and Human Services Department is of vital importance to achieving the full potential of members of the Crow tribe. And whereas it is critical that the position of cabinet head of the Health and Human Services be filled by an individual with extensive experience in the areas of health care and health policy fields, and whereas the chairman of the executive branch has selected Jacqueline Stewart to serve as cabinet head of Health and Human Services Department, and whereas Jacqueline Stewart is a member of the Crow tribe with a commendable history of service to the Crow tribal community, and whereas Jacqueline Stewart has extensive experience in the fields of health and human services and health policy fields, including over 3 decades of work experience in these fields, and is extremely well qualified to serve in this capacity. And whereas Jacqueline Stewart is recognized nationally as well as among the Crow tribal community as a leader in the field of health care and human services, and whereas Ms. Jacqueline Stewart has appeared and testified before the Health and Human Services Committee during a hearing and has received the committee's recommendation for confirmation by the full legislature as the cabinet head for the tribal health and human services. Now, therefore, be it hereby resolved by the Crow Tribal Legislature in special session that Jacqueline Stewart is duly confirmed as the Crow Tribal Health and Human Services Department Cabinet Head and shall exercise all authority in accordance with all applicable federal and Crow Tribal law upon approval of the Crow Tribal Legislative Branch. Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. That brings us to the 30-minute presentation. Proponents will now speak at this time. Proceed. Yes. At this time, this is a confirmation, so I'm still in resolution mode. So he would speak. She would be answering questions, is what she will be doing. She'll be presenting herself at this time, yes. So during 30-minute presentation, we'll have her make her comments. Yeah. Then we'll go on to questions. So we will save your, if you could save your questions for the debate portion. When we get to debate, then you can ask your questions. But at this time, we're going to hear from the candidate.
Good afternoon. Speaker of the House, Secretary of the House, legislative members, guests, honored guests. My name is Jacqueline Stewart. Bilgaus Diakovic Anichishuk. Igor Stratvat Chatigil Oske Rosemary Blackhawk, Saga Jackson Stewart Jr. Mascala Ikigarish, Angela Star Blackhawk, Masagasaka Eli Blackhawk, Milgala Shirley Sashu, Masaga Yuga Lily Spotted Tail, Sagasaka Jack Stewart, Cook Senior. Amalachime Wayo Lugogon, first grade, 8th grade, Bihala High School, launch grass, freshman, begin Komachime Junior, begin going to St. Roberta, fourth, my senior year, Shpala Komachime Bihala. And, Ami Vaya, Agagon Shpala, 18, going to high school, Kajim. Reservation, Tedovich Bala, having the first year of college, Bala, Cardinal Street College in Milwaukee, Cohen Catholic Girls College, to the Coach Bala. I won my second and sophomore year, College of St. Teresa, Minnesota, going off to be Catholic Girls College, get kagon senior year, raw kagi east come out now kajik. And Amali in ITech, deshi da sure da. Komali year 4 years kodak. At East Sala at St. Gabriel, Mali 2 years kodak kagon Karchikama Chimik University of Utah on master's degree, Kurichik. And in Bachak, but Korishivas, I get a 2-year program, got a year and a half, got him Komakajik. And in freshman, the first year students got 150 get them Bilavigaduk, a year and a half, Komakadra. And in Igore, at Barati, Okshpagalag, in Amani was a crocodile, Iwachoga. Alice Kuri like in the Malchimesh, Irukobek, Kamal Chimere, Garashia can annulate being Malidic, Malastu Chipache, Karagon. You have to have a B average or better to stay in graduate school. Karagon Iwachogi, they can, Amachogish, be Malchimesh, Birakusali, Birakatachek. Short then be behind the chair, Bali much bug. Carbon, Hilavam, Ajiri gas, midterm couldn't. I had a better than a B average on Kalamarish, the Kodameo chicken. Be watch, Kajik Scott, but Kajik Carbon, Exashkusha, St. Gabriel home, first job offer, regular Komaliwak. And I started off as a social worker. And in Amali Vosh, I started at the bottom. And Machbage or Jichigash, they were called and Hinabipish and Kukoi Gerik. When you start from the bottom, you learn the program. In St. Gabriel, we go a total of 16 years. Karaji had the last 5 years that I was there, we were Jichigash. And then I started off as a social worker. I won't we promote Kulaka. And during that time, Malu Gase, Bafage, Walui, especially when you work in a program where you're supposed to be helping people, but Bahiresh, dysfunction of if they haven't dealt with their issues, they can cause more damage. And because I work with problem children, I have the patience for them. At the end of I had to deal with them. And during that time, Baluga's staff got dealing with that over and over again. Bali Mashpala Gopi, the Chilgid. I'm done. I've done my part. I knew that I had to do more time there. So anywhere that I've worked in a prayer race, I have to keep my end of my bargain. He has put me where my skills are needed, and in Nachbagish, in Ochbaliwish, the Gabugasakish, I will buy a little because in the Amosh, Baliwachish Galakin, Kalachtas, Muscari, was scared, be reminded, Kojerik, and Malosh Kalachtas, buy a little touch this, Balachish Galakin, Kobugawokum, that has helped me in the work that I do. And Balakukshirevo, Balela Balash, Bakarisu. We have no business being in that field. We're dealing with human lives. And this is our tribe, these are our people. And the last 5 years, the ship and substance abuse for Maliwa. And Maliwa is because of politics, and Kalagoni would be a gate my suck, Masavatic, a Bahimish in Korea, biwa chilik ihti mali waiwa kudi much because I've been able to work elsewhere off reservation. And they must see the body will khamikas so you can learn from them. And hina amal shikyosh ba mali chishkyosh shikek bali waiwa. It doesn't mean that it's a popularity contest when you're in a position of power. And in lagi in cabinet head kulit it being chalk collage and I'm learning as I go along. And then he never which I worked with children for over 18 years, and I learned from them. And then alcoholics, addicts, substance users, I learned from them. And as long as I've kept an open mind, I've learned from everybody that I have come into contact with. And then they're brought into our life for a reason. And my desire is to give them the best that I can. And clients, they were brought into my life for a reason. And I was brought into your life for a reason, my G. Because Chloe Wallachimiwalig and Bakuk, I wanted to help my own people, and it's finally happened. Any questions?
The floor is now, we'll move on to, for recommendation, when we get to debate, then you can have your questions then. Right now, we have to call for the chairman of the committee, the Health and Human Services Committee, for approval or disapproval. So at this time, the floor recognizes Senator Not Afraid of the Las Vegas District.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the body. We did have a confirmation hearing in committee, and it was a unanimous vote. At the committee hearing, the candidate was placed under oath at that time, and basically she gave us the great presentation at that time she's giving today. She fielded a number of questions, and the committee's unanimous recommendation is for confirmation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
All right, thank you. Now the floor is open for debate. Do we have any questions for the candidate? The floor organizes Senator Stewart of the Mighty Few District.
Can I still talk as a proponent?
Yes.
Namaskar, Walagoy. Bishotara, Namaskar. Zage, Bibhe, it's really close to what I eat to Marines. The Jackson, Dick, Kosho, Rajame, by the way, I'll let check the Wuswell, Shish Church, Mike Chigash, confirm that group list. Oh, my.
We're still in debate. Any more questions or comments? For organized Senator Rearward of the Mighty Few District.
I just want to, I'm a proponent of this, of Jacqueline being confirmed as the health. Her experience working outside of the reservation and working with different types of people, this would be an asset to the tribe when she's confirmed, and I know she'll do a great job just because of her experience and her education. So I'm a proponent, and that's all I got to say. I hope.
Thank you. We are still in debate, going once. Still in debate, going twice. Third and final call, we are in debate. All right, that takes us on to, there's two ways we can go about this. We can either have secret ballot or just final roll call vote. And I believe on our last candidate, was it out on the floor, final roll call vote, right? Is how we did our last candidate? All right. Yeah, that was the Education Committee. So at this time, the floor organized Senator Not Afraid of the Los Angeles District.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. At this time, I move that we waive second reading and move into final roll call vote.
I got a motion to go into final roll call vote. Second by Senator Stewart of the Black Lotus District, questioned by Senator Not Afraid of the Bighorn District. All those in favor of moving on to final roll call vote, raise your right hand. All those opposed, all those abstaining. Motion carries with a vote of 14 yes, 0 no, 0 abstain. We'll go into final roll call vote, and we will start with the Black Lotus District.
Pretty Pate, Black Lodge, yes.
Stewart, Black Lodge, yes.
Other Medicine, Reno, yes.
Not Afraid, Ashwaubenon, yes.
Alden, Bighorn, yes.
Not Afraid, Bighorn, yes. Bighorn, yes. Deep Creek, Arrow Creek, yes.
Goza, Buckboy, yes.
Hugs, Arrow Creek, yes.
Real Bird, Mighty Few, yes.
Stewart, Mighty Few, yes.
Vote for Oshkosh, yes.
Shane Reno, yes.
14-0-0.
Secretary of the House reports 14 yes, 0 no, 0 abstain. You are now confirmed as the cabinet head.
Swear her in.
So now, who has a Bible? I believe we used this Bible at the last swearing in also. All right, we'll get our swearing in form. Yes. Just waiting for the oath of office form. Our in-house counsel wanted to get a copy of the oath of office. I'd like to congratulate you.
Bible, I go tired.
I texted last time. So. I was trying to get it out of the cover, but it's in there pretty good, so I'm sure it doesn't come out. But thank you. Okay, Secretary of the House. You wanna hold the Bible and then hold the mic for her too? Just, this is your oath of office, and I will read it and then you repeat after me. Okay? I state your name.
I, Jacqueline Stewart,
As a legislatively confirmed cabinet head
as the legislatively confirmed cabinet
of the Crow Tribal Department of Health and Human Services
of the Crow Tribal Department of Health and
do solemnly swear to faithfully execute my authorities and duties
do solemnly swear to faithfully execute my authorities and duties,
and will, to the best of my ability, support and defend the Crow Tribal Constitution
and will, to the best of my ability, support and defend the Crow Tribal Constitution
and all Crow Tribal laws and policies enacted
and all Crow Tribal laws and policies enacted
in furtherance thereof for the benefit of the Crow Tribe of Indians, so help me God.
in furtherance thereof for the benefit of the Crow Tribe of Indians, so help me God.
You are now confirmed. Congratulations. So with that, I guess that brings us towards the end. Our budget. Okay, is there an LR that's gonna be?
Yeah.
Okay.
James got it ready.
Let's take a 2-minute break real quick. We need to come back and we've got a modification of our own budget that we have to get an LR.
Yeah.
So we'll take a 2-minute break, come back, get that LR done, and then finish up. other business. I believe we are going to have an LR to modify our budget through the Revenue Committee. So at this time, floor organizes Chairman of the Revenue Committee, Senator Goes Ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Secretary, members of the body, and guests. At this time, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to amend the budget, amend the agenda to include this LR. I make that in the form of a motion.
All right, so we got a motion on the floor to amend the agenda to add this LR, second by Senator Hugs. Do we have a question? Question by Senator Crooked Arm. All those in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. This is a motion to amend the agenda to add an LR. Secretary of the House reports 13. All those opposed? All those abstaining? 13 yes, 0 no, 0 abstain. Motion carries. So now we have amended the agenda to add this LR. Floor recognizes Senator Goes Ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll read the LR. A resolution of the Crow Tribal Legislature to modify the fiscal year 2013 legislative branch budget.
Motion by Senator Not Afraid of the Bighorn District. Second by Senator Hugs. Go ahead and proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Whereas the Crow Tribal Legislature, parentheses, legislature has the power and duty under Article 5, Section 2 of the Crow Tribal Constitution to promulgate and adopt resolutions in accordance with the Constitution, federal laws for the governance of the Crow Tribe, and whereas the legislature has the constitutional authority to provide for the fiscal management of its own budget and is therefore responsible for and in control of its budget for fiscal year 2013, and whereas the Revenue Committee, pursuant to Section 4, subsection B of the Revenue Committee bylaws, has the power to recommend modifications to the approved annual legislative branch budget, and whereas the Revenue Committee has reviewed current and projected fiscal year expenditure amounts and the available remaining legislative branch budget, and whereas the Revenue Committee has determined after review and deliberation of the budget and the priorities and policy goals of the legislature that is in the best interest of the legislature to modify the fiscal year 2013 budget in accordance with this resolution. Now, therefore, be it hereby resolved by the Crow Tribal Legislature in special session that the fiscal year 2013 Crow Legislative Branch is hereby modified as follows. Line item, and then the modified amounts. Year, okay, we're gonna modify the 2013 150C 62,000 computer services / supply and maintenance to increase it by 8,000, and then also in the 150C 66,200 travel off reservation, we're going to decrease it by 8,000. And that, according to the modifications made herein in this resolution, the legislative branch fiscal year 2013 line item computer services / supply and maintenance shall now be for the amount of 43,000, and the line item travel off reservation shall now be for the amount of 89,300. Be it finally resolved, this resolution shall take effect immediately upon becoming duly adopted by the legislature, and a certified copy shall be made immediately delivered to the tribal comptroller and tribal CPA by the secretary of the legislature.
This brings us to the 30-minute presentation.
Yes, I'll come up and make a quick, during, I believe it was June 4th, Mr. Speaker, we had a revenue committee that we wanted to purchase. We already appropriated 30,000 from the Cloud Peak bonus. We asked for 100,000 that from the Cloud Peak bonus of the 2.24, I believe. 100,000 that would be allocated to the travel off reservation of 70,000 would be added increase. And then the 30,000 would be appropriated to purchase laptops, computers. And so that modification in that area was never done in-house. But so getting it up to speed on June 4th at that revenue committee meeting, I saw that there was a need that the laptops weren't purchased at that time. There was no directive, so we had a revenue meeting to give a directive to our IT tech to start purchasing the laptops at that time. So that's how this all transpired. And so we had a revenue committee, and during that revenue committee meeting that we were gonna come short of purchasing the 25 laptops. Previously to that, we were trying to get iPods, and some of the legislative senators were trying, and the staff were trying to either getting an iPad or a laptop. So during that meeting on June 4th, we said, no, we'll get laptops for everybody, because this hasn't been moving forward for about almost a year. It's been almost about a year. It hasn't gone anyplace. So I took the initiative as the revenue chair, called for a revenue committee meeting. We looked at the budget, and that's when we found out that the modification was never made of setting aside that 70,000 to the travel and setting aside 30,000 to the laptops. And anyways, so there were other needs that needed to be met. And some of the senators were crying around and saying that, just kidding. What about the big screen TV? But we needed a big screen TV for teleconference or TV something like that.
Video.
Skype, trying to get us to update ourselves to technology with the Skype. And so we've set aside that money that day to buy an 80, well, it's a 60-inch TV, which was going to cost about $5,000. We set aside, and then we also set aside the laptops, which was going to cost about $24,000. And then the high definition video camera to do the live stream. Right now, if you look at and go to YouTube to the live stream, you would always see those megapixels stopping, but with a high definition, that would eliminate all the megapixels kind of stopping. And so that was going to cost about $1,500. So the total was about, what, $24,000 that I just saw. $24,000 that was set aside. So now, coming to today's LR is that we were going to be short about $8,000. So the only place in our budget that we can get money to set to help with the purchase of those 3 items was from the travel off reservation. So that's why we're decreasing $8,000 from travel off reservation and adding it to the computers / supply and maintenance. So that's the update of why we need this LR pass today. We asked, according to our FMA, the CPA can direct the revenue committee or the finance officer, Bill Ocro, saying, you know, you guys need a budget modification, which the previous CPA used to do that. We've asked and made a request to Carla McCatherine a couple times in the 4 revenue committees that we had, and she hasn't done that. She said she was going to do it. So the other option is to make an LR and pass it, do a budget modification with the full legislature. And Kariuku Kesh. So we need to pass this. Oh,
we are still in 30-minute presentation, so proponents. Going once, 30-minute presentation. Going twice. 4 recognizes Senator Stewart of the Black Lodge District.
I'd like to recognize our IT, have to speak to the issue on the laptops.
All right. Lorenzo. This is Lorenzo Mountsheep, our IT person. Person that's working behind the camera who will now be in front of the camera. If you could just explain to them what the needs are, like what Senator Gozad was talking about, the differences and why we need to upgrade.
We need to upgrade and update because time is now. Well, basically, so we can get back into the game of technology and start showing what we're capable of, what everybody's capable of. Not afraid of the technology and try to advance rather than be behind. Back in the 1900s.
How outdated are current laptops?
Your guys' current laptops are probably around 5 to 6 years old, still carrying a Windows XP operating system in them. I mean, that's a pretty stable platform for certain types of work, but it's still back there. So try to get up to speed and be able to get up there and have it all working. That way you guys can have fun with technology and get the hang of it and show what we can do with it here.
I've got a question for the TV that we've got. So we're going to be able to have video conferences, right?
Yep. The TV we're thinking about possibly setting right in the back right here with a curtain from distraction, and then when needed we'll open it. And we're going to try to use our camera right here because it should work. But if not, there's a high definition camera that's superb for that type of telephoning type stuff for Skype in and out. And the TV that we've got, out of all the ones I looked at, it's the best with all of it. The bigger one was nice, but the pictures wasn't as good as the one that I picked up anyway. And it'd be nice so that everyone from sitting back here in the corners can see it at every angle. Because if you guys notice, like some of the LCDs, you sit down and then it goes dark, get up to level, and then it's correct. And so that just be good for everybody. Laptops, that should be happening pretty quick. We have to start an account up, jump through hoops to get that. Finally got the purchase order. Now I'm just waiting on the quote to turn in and get that ball rolling. So hopefully in a few days I'll hear back from our agreement anyway, our agreement through Apple and stuff like that for their branch. So now we have an account with them, and then the pricings, things will go with the rates and government type stuff.
All right, thank you. So we are still a 30-minute presentation. As you heard. Oh yes, Lorenzo, come back real quick. Explain the difference that we will now have a new address, the CTLB address.
Oh yes, since there's lots of confusion and more than likely misspelling of the legislativebranch.org email address, we shorten it down to just initials for Crow Tribal Legislative Branch.org, but that'll just be the CTLB.org. So that should eliminate a lot of that, and it's way faster. I've used it like for about a week now, and it's great over the phone. Just handing it out, it's a lot better. It's great. Oh yeah, who else haven't I hit up yet for an email to update in their phone?
So if you need your phones updated, he needs to update your phone now for your email address. So get him your iPhone and then he can get your phone updated with a new address on there. All right, we're still on 30-minute presentation. How much time do we have left, Kenny? 19 minutes. We're still on 30-minute presentation going twice. Third and final call for a 30-minute presentation. There's no more proponents. This will bring us to the recommendation from the chairman of the Revenue Committee. Floor recognizes Senator Goes Ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is very simple. The full legislature is here to pass this so we can get on with business.
All right, so we have approval from the chairman of the Revenue Committee. Floor recognizes Senator Alden of the Bighorn District.
Make a motion, waive second reading, move on to final roll call vote.
We have a motion to waive second reading and we'll move on to final roll call vote. Second by Senator Not Afraid of the Bighorn District. Question by Senator Railbird of the Mighty Few District. All those in favor of that motion, waiving second reading, moving on to final roll call vote, raise your right hand. We have a vote. All those opposed? All those abstain? With a vote of 15 yes, 0 no, 0 abstain, motion carries to waive second reading, move on to final roll call vote. We will start with Black Lodge District.
Pretty big, yes.
Stewart Black Lodge, yes.
Other minutes, Reno, yes.
Iota, Reno, yes. Not Afraid, Oshkosh, yes. Alden, Bighorn, yes.
Not Afraid, Bighorn, yes.
Bighorn, yes.
Deep Green, Elk Creek, yes.
Goes ahead, Balboa, yes.
Hug, Zero Creek, yes.
Reelbert, Mighty Few, yes.
Stewart, Mighty Few, yes.
Both Oshkosh, yes. Shane, Reno, yes.
15-0-0.
Secretary of the House reports 15 yes, 0 no, 0 abstain. Which the LR passes with a vote of 15 yes, 0 no, 0 abstain. Mr. Speaker. Floor recognized, Senator Goes Ahead.
Yes, sir, there is an announcement. The 2014 budget will be meeting, start meeting probably on a Tuesday. I was gonna get that. On the 25th, 10 a.m., 25th Tuesday, 10 a.m. And then we get that ready for the July session for the 2014 budget. And then also with that, for everybody's information, this is to update everybody that's here. I went through the budget with Marlon Passes. But the way we currently are spending our money, we should be okay to September 30th, and we should at least, we're projecting having a carryover of about 123,000. And so that 123,000 in one of the revenue committees, we've already, we have to get the office, the computer desktops updated as well with that money. So I think it's about 5 or 6 desktops that we need to use that money for. And then, so, you know, travel, I think the way we are traveling right now, like Senator Wilbert there, we can travel for more. But anyways, but, you know, we have to watch ourselves yet, but, you know, travel safe. So, but yeah, so that's just an update,
Okay.
and that's about it, the whole.
All right, so that'll be 6 desktop computers we have to look at. Or was it Kenny's, yours is okay, or do we still need to replace Kenny's? I guess Secretary of Health is requesting we replace all the desktops, so that would be 6 desktops. 8? Oh, 8, all right. So we would have to replace 8. Any more announcements?
Oh, yeah. I know that Jay had forgot, but Tom Lubin and some other lawyers are gonna be here, tomorrow morning, I guess, at 10 a.m. And they're gonna be at the Three Brothers Pizza or something, a lot, please. I don't know what time it is this evening, sometime maybe 6:30.
Okay.
Those are the announcements I have.
I spoke to Sharon Paraguay, and I told her to get in touch with Senator Stewart, because of, it would be germane for it to go through his committee. He could call a committee meeting, and then they could come in then and give a report to the committee. So I don't know if he's going to call for a natural resources or infrastructure committee meeting tomorrow morning, but that's what I told her to get in touch with Senator Prettypaint.
The parade on Friday, for the ones that don't ride horses, can we use the pickup?
Who's not gonna ride horses?
I'm gonna take Vincent.
All right, Kenny, if you can get that truck available for the parade, for whoever wants to get in the truck. We have been given an invite to take part in the Native Days Parade, so senators, you know. So I guess they want to make sure that we get involved with the parade this year. So I know, you know, I guess they're really excited about Native Days this year, so they wanted the legislative branch to be very well a part of everything this year. So who's going to parade? Does anyone have an idea? I know I am. All right. Yeah. All right, and then also, the office will be closed starting Wednesday.
Oh, man, what?
So that's because of the Mets ride, you know, they're also giving us an invitation to the Mets ride.
Don't forget the coal summit on the.
Well, yes, the Coal Summit too, they're asking for us to be involved with that because we've got the other leadership of the other tribes that'll be here, so they're wanting the legislative branch to be there, to be at the Liverpool College. I believe Wednesday and Thursday at the Cultural Center, right?
Yeah.
Starting at what time?
All that, so
10? What's that? All right, you have an agenda on your desk and also your letter of invites there on your desk. So the Coal Summit, Tuesday, they're gonna be taking some that are already here. Tuesday, they're taking them on a buffalo hunt, and then Wednesday, they will be at the multi-purpose at 11 o'clock, eat lunch, and then from 1 to 3 o'clock, they're taking whoever wants to go on a tour of the Spring Creek. And they need to know how many numbers, I believe CJ was saying. And then they'll also be taking tours of the reservation on Wednesday also. And then 6 to 7 o'clock, there'll be a dinner at the grandstand on Wednesday before the youth rally. So then Thursday, they will start again. They will have a tour of the Sarpy Creek mine at 10 o'clock and then come back to Liverpool College at 12 to 1. Then the Coal Summit will be Thursday from 1 to 5. So I think they basically want us there mostly for for the dinner part on Wednesday and then lunch on Thursday. And then the Coal Summit will be from 1 to 5 on Thursday. So 1 to 5 Thursday afternoon. And then 6 o'clock is the feast also on Thursday. So, is there any more announcements? Senator Stewart, did Sharon Paraguay get a hold of you for a meeting for tomorrow for natural resources or infrastructure?
I told her it was, too short notice, and I've already, committed to going up on the mountain tomorrow.
Okay. Well,
I did tell her that there's others here that would probably that might stick around for that.
all right,
But this is kind of a bad week, I mean.
yeah.
They really wanted to get a hold of everybody, it should have came last week, or the week after.
I believe we can just,
Probably whoever's here.
yeah, we'll just say whoever's here can meet with them, and then we'll just go from there. So tomorrow, I'll tell her at 10 o'clock, I'll get a hold of her after we get done here and let her know to come over at 10, so senators, whoever wants to take part in that meeting, they just want to report to the legislative branch on what they've been working on. That'll be at 10 o'clock tomorrow. Any more announcements?
I just went ahead and told, they wanted an answer, so I just said 15. Around 15 for that group.
Okay.
I was all gonna be there.
All right, and then, when will paychecks be ready, Jackie? Wednesday?
Direct deposit.
Okay. Okay. So we'll get our paychecks Wednesday. Okay, 3 o'clock Wednesday. All right. Calling for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Senator Nonafray Lodgegrass, second by Senator Stewart of Mighty Few. All those in favor, say aye. All right, we're now adjourned.